Okay, and we're live. Right, good morning, everybody. It's Lana again with the Norwich Guide Dog Forum in conversation, which today, our very special guest today is Ian Russell, who is the owner at Wroxham Barns and a director of a few other organisations. Ian will explain in a minute. It's yeah, very important anyway. We are really privileged to have him here today. And Ian's going to talk to us about not just Wroxham Barns and how reopening after lockdown has changed the physical environment. I think that's kind of the general theme at the moment, is our physical environment, when you're visually impaired, isn't the easiest of places normally. You know, there are struggles and battles and conflicts and all sorts, you know, either with a dog but actually post-lockdown, with all the, you know, the restrictions, the new payment licenses, the one-way systems around places that weren't there before that are put up on a temporary basis. Some parts of Norwich and other places have become quite difficult to negotiate because, you know, the signage isn't probably what we would ask for. You know, it changes on a daily basis sometimes to adapt to needs and to where people need to be. So Ian will talk to us about Wroxham Barns and what specifically has been done there and how he can help. I hope we can have a really useful discussion, not about, you know, this particular attraction, that, you know, other places that sort of fit into Ian's remit as well. So yeah, welcome, Ian. And thank you so much for joining us today. So what can you tell us about yourself and Wroxham Barns and, you know?
Okay, so I as you mentioned, I own Wroxham Barns, which is a visitor centre, visitor attraction just outside Wroxham. So nicely located for the Broads and for the coast, and an easy reach from Norwich. It's in terms of accessibility, public transport wise, it's not great, although it's about a 25-minute walk out of Wroxham itself, and we're proud to have the only privately funded footpath in Norfolk.
Wow.
Which I'm really chuffed about. And we did that about 25 years ago to get pedestrians off what was and is quite a nasty rural lane.
Well, it gets busy, doesn't it? So, you know, as all country lanes do. So
yeah, so I bought these derelict barns when I was just 25, and we took about a year and a bit just to establish them. And the thinking behind the place was it would be a place where things are made, and out of that, the concept of shopping as a leisure activity in itself, and pretty much that concept is true to this day. We still do make things at Wroxham Barns, and people do come to mooch and browse and shop. Yeah, and that's seen as a very pleasurable existence. Some would say we were quite ahead of our time at that time. We have broadened the appeal, so it's now somewhere that is not only really enjoyable for grown-ups, but it's also really enjoyable for children. And I suppose our continual challenge is to make sure we get that balance right, and that we are seen as being good at doing both of those things. Some would argue, well, that can't be possible, but I think it is possible. And I think it's also true that many visitors actually come with both grown-ups and children.
I completely agree. I think it's, I have to say, hand on heart, that I couldn't bring my children there because my daughter, when she was younger, had a phobia of goats. On one unfortunate day in one of the zoos, we went into the petting area, and they had, you know, the little dispensers of food, 20p in. Well, clearly, this is, excuse me, everyone, for slipping this one in, but this is, so as soon as the money went in and the dial, the click, 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 click of the dial, we got mobbed by about 50 goats with my daughter in a pushchair. So from then on, it was, Can we go there? No, we can't. There's goats. And that was literally the limiting
Well,
factor
I think
because of that experience. So I think I'm going to, yes, it's going to be one of those where she is older now. We're probably going to start coming as a grown-up experience rather than the child experience.
So. Well, yes, goats have naughtiness in their genes, I think. And they're great fun, but they do come with a bit of a health warning. We actually do have signs warning people, like a road sign, a big sort of warning triangle saying danger, naughty goats beyond this point. Approach with caution.
Pesky
and
goats.
they can recognise a brown paper bag containing food at 50 paces.
Yeah, like the old seagull, right?
Yeah. So we've got these traditional barns. They were not designed for the purpose that we've put them to now, and that brings with it some challenges in terms of levels. And they're old buildings, and they have ups and downs and trip hazards and all sorts. And we've tried to manage most of those. And I think we have have always tried to make ourselves aware of what might be perceived to be best practice, but I'd be the first to admit that there's always room for improvement. And I really, when you contacted me last week and said, how about a chat, I really thought this would be an excellent opportunity to sort of run the slide rule over the visitor experience at Wroxham Barns, somebody who's visually impaired, with or without a guide dog.
Yeah, I mean, where I always come from, Ian, is that there, with the best will in the world, we're not going to get. It's just not going to happen. The world can't adapt specifically to every type of disability, if you know what I mean. So I firmly believe that there is a middle ground where we can all come together and actually, move forward as a society. So, if we aim for those common platforms, such as, for example, when I first moved to Norfolk, the public transport from ACLE were coaches, which were, upstairs, which, for, young mum with small children, I had 3 under the age of 4 at one point. So, collapsing the double buggy, putting it away, it was an absolute nightmare. So when the Disability Discrimination Act came in and all buses had to be level access, that not only made public transport more accessible to disabled people, it also meant that, mothers with pushchairs, those perhaps, who didn't own a car could still get about. And it's just become one of those normals that everybody appreciates, because mobility problems come in all shapes and sizes. So something that was made specifically at a particular group has actually benefited us generally as a whole. So like now you wouldn't think twice of bringing a suitcase onto a bus, would you? Because you're not having to drag it up the stairs. So I think that whatever the physical environment is at the moment, it can always, with the right, being in the right headspace, you can always come together at some point in the future where, without too much expense, without, it actually works for everyone better, and not just, perhaps, a particular disability group. So it's really good to have these conversations, but I would never be one of this has to be in that particular way, full stop, because it might not work for somebody else. So I do feel that there's an enormous middle ground where we, we can all benefit. So, the more that sort of feedback you get, I suppose, the better it is.
Yes.
You attract a wider and wider audience, don't you?
I think one of the things that I will do as a result of our conversation is feedback to our staff, just to remind them that we should, as individuals, just be aware of visitors who may have disabilities and difficulties, some of which just won't be visible.
Yeah.
And our staff always understand that they have a role as hosts. It's a good old-fashioned look after your guests, and a lot of that is about being aware, being conscious, recognizing when somebody may need a helping hand or a word of welcome and clarification, and to have the confidence as members of staff to engage, to take the initiative and say, can I help you? Are you okay? Are you aware that this is a one-way system, or whatever it was? And, you know, all of our staff are dressed like this, so you can ask any of us. And it is a small point, but I think it's a really important one. When we reopened, we decided that all our staff would wear a high-vis waistcoat. And it has a sort of welcome to Wroxham Barns. We have a new logo, which is Enjoy Wroxham Barns Safely. But what it does make is I mean all of our staff, so the office staff, the back of house, front of house, everybody has a high-vis waistcoat. What that's done is it's made, you know, you just know where the staff are. You can spot them at 100 yards.
Yeah, which is really helpful, especially when
Yeah, I hadn't quite realised how helpful until I saw it in action.
Really, that's good.
And it's reassuring that there are staff around, because people, you know, say, well, everybody in a purple t-shirt is member staff. You think, well, if you didn't know, I was looking for a purple polo shirt, and that's not very obvious from a distance either. But a high-vis waistcoat absolutely is.
Yeah, it is.
And we have seen, you know, far more customer interaction of a positive nature, and people saying, you know, asking that question, whereas then previously I would wager that a good number of those questions went unanswered because they thought they couldn't find anybody. And it's very frustrating. So, well, I couldn't find anybody. You think, well, there was one there, there's one there, yes, but they weren't obvious enough.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started. There's a number of times I do speak to the wrong people in the Apple store, as you do, because
so
can I just ask, Ian, what has changed? Obviously, you know, during lockdown, you would have shut your doors, and that was that. So when you reopened, you had a phased reopening, I presume. So what stage are you at now? I have to say, I haven't been since. But, you know, are you completely open, or is every part of Wroxham Barns open? What has changed in the physical environment of Wroxham Barns?
If I walk you through it in chronological order, so we could have opened in mid-June under the guise of specialist retailers. We chose not to because we wanted to just see how the early openings went, and also sense that there would be changes, and there indeed were. We chose to open on the 4th of July with our shops, our self-service cafe, and our farm, junior farm. And we were pretty happy with how that went. There were a few things we agreed we would do from the outset. One was the decision that all our staff would be highly recognisable. On the other hand, remembering that this is supposed to be an enjoyable day out, people come here to have a nice time. So we will not frighten them witless with warning signs left, right and centre. We'll give them sight, we'll give them direction where they need direction. But by and large, we will do all we can to keep the experience as it was before. And there would be a light touch, not a COVID-19 theme park. And there's a balance there, and I think that's an important balance to get with your staff as well, that they're there to welcome and encourage, not direct or correct even.
Yeah. So what's changed? I mean, how do you have to pre-book
Yes,
or your visit, or what
so
one-way systems have you got in place? And
well,
obviously there's there's places to eat.
all of the above, I guess. So there was a stage 2 to our opening, and that we had decided back last year that we would take over the running of our children's fun fair, which had been run for many years by a business partner, a tenant. We wanted to bring that back in-house. We wanted to invest in it, and we wanted to merge it with our junior farm experience. So we decided to invest the thick end of 200,000, and we're just 3 weeks before Easter, having spent all the money, there we were looking at full closure. Ouch. But we carried on and got it complete, ready for an opening whenever that might be. We chose not to open that on the 4th of July, but hold it back until the 26th of July, which was the school holidays, again to give us time to see how others were doing. So both the farm and the fun park we set up a one-way system. So because we sense, and I think this is right, that the thing that's really unnerving is when you keep meeting people coming towards you. If everybody's going in the same direction, and it's easier to manage that. And that has worked extremely well, so much so that many of our visitors say, don't change that. That actually takes us on a journey, which we might not have done if left to our own devices. But it means we can manage the flow. We have 2 entrances, so and you're quite right, everybody has to book online so that we can make sure we don't get too many people arriving at any one time. So for the first 30 minutes in the hour, visitors arrive and go to our farm entrance, and the second 30 minutes in the hour, they go to our fun park entrance. So we're doing our best to try to distribute the flow of visitors in the 2 places. Now, as the day progresses, that obviously just shakes down and moves around, but by and large, it works. And both the fun park and the farm have these one-way systems. And we use a very nice little, we've got some troughs and fork handles and rope, and all of our guide mechanisms are rope and fork handles.
Well, yeah, because I think that was my second question is because a lot of the one-way systems, because they were necessarily thought to be temporary in being set up. So the cheapest possible solution has been used, which in many cases has been literally ribbon barriers, which so to a long cane user, that's not terribly helpful because the barrier doesn't come down close enough to the ground. And to a guide dog, yes, they are beautifully trained, but some of them aren't terribly good with height barriers. So if they can walk through it, especially if it's a new confusing environment, they will, and you end up getting tangled in rope and clatter. I've been there, done that. It's embarrassing. Just right. So so a better alternative is to have the the full panel barriers that you slide out and hook in, because those are obviously more of a barrier rather than, so similarly if you've got troughs, and those actually that gives you a feedback from the ground as you swing your cane. So yes, what do you have in place?
We're using on our farm we use a combination of hurdles, sheep hurdles to create fences to guide the flow, but we're also using this device of really substantial troughs with fork handles, which we've concreted into the troughs, and then rope connecting. I do see a point, and it could well be that we might introduce sort of lengths of sleeper or something at ground level, just which would be easy to do, just to give you that touch point. If somebody's using a cane or a dog would recognize that, I won't walk over that.
Yeah, well, I think again, you have to come back to it. This isn't supposed to be a enormous expense, or to a business that would be prohibitive. It's just that I think often sometimes the things that you put in that work for one particular group actually then work really well for other people as well. So But yeah, I'll let you see what you've got in the backyard hanging around in
Yes,
terms
I
of
think
materials.
there are two elements to the experience of Wroxham Barns. The first is what we call the free to enter experience, which is accessing the courtyards and the barns, which accommodate our studios and specialist shops and our cafe, farmhouse cafe and courtyard. Now nothing's changed. They are not one way. And that's absolutely down to our staff to be vigilant and to make sure, as we have done over the last 38 years, make sure people are looked after. And if we think they need assistance, go and offer it. Don't wait to be asked. I think that in our paid for environment, the farm and the fun park, again, I think it's for our staff. If somebody is coming and they've got a guide dog with them or a cane, or it's obvious that they have a difficulty they'll need assistance with, then our staff should have the competence to say, I need to tell you it's one way, this is what you need to be aware of, but please ask us if we can do anything to assist you during your time with us. And you can recognize us all because we're wearing these high-vis jackets.
Yeah, oh no, that's so helpful and so reassuring, really, it is. So how's your cafe? I have to ask about the cafe. Is that fully open?
Well, that's been a bit of a journey for us. So
I can imagine.
So we before this crisis crashed down on our heads, we had a self-service cafeteria which worked well for young families who just, give me the damn food, I don't want to wait 15 minutes, and child-friendly, and also capable of welcoming a coach party of 50 people real fast and getting them through. And then we had a very nice table service restaurant, which we were very proud of, great reputation, classic afternoon teas, lovely lunches and so forth. Now that's been a massive challenge for us. And I think we've taken a little bit out of National Trust.
Okay, that's good.
We have some very nice eating places, but they are self-service. And it means, because I think that people just are not happy, and we can't cope with serving 80 people at table if they're in a hurry. It's not possible. So going forwards, our restaurant will also be self-service, but it will serve hot food, and the Wroxham Barns afternoon tea will be making a return after the summer holidays. But we have had to re-engineer our restaurant to do that. So it's open at the moment, but it will upscale its offer. It'll be nicer once the children go back to school in September, and we'll revert as far as we can back to the Wroxham Barns restaurant of old, but table service will not be returning. Now, I also appreciate it's very difficult if you've got a guide dog or a cane to carry a tray.
Oh, impossible.
It can't be done.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, just personally, we could never book a holiday, with a buffet meal, because I would starve myself to death, because there's over the decades, there's only so many things that you can put on your plate that really aren't what you wanted, but you're obliged to eat because as a kid you were told to eat what's on your plate.
So I think this is back to our staff and them having the confidence and ability to anticipate what the customer's needs are, and come up and say, let me get you a table, and I'll bring it to you. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And they know they've got to do that. And it's not just, look, the people who are, getting on a bit, who may have some sort of mobility issue, they too need help. And we have to, and all the signs in the world aren't going to replace having a staff culture which is anticipate what the customer needs and come up with a solution without being asked.
Oh gosh, I honestly, I could cry with relief whenever that happens to me. When I can sit down and they're just, just wait there. What do you want? Can we get the dog some water? Just sit there. We'll look after you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
would also say, as a small point, but we are very, very, very dog friendly. And that
yes.
hasn't all. I mean, I'm dog mad. I've got two little Norfolk Terriers called Bob and Dylan, and they are very hugely popular at Wroxham Barns. So we are a very dog friendly place these days, and dogs are welcome pretty much anywhere other than on the farm itself, except assistance dogs of all types are, of course, welcome on the farm as well.
Well, I mean, they have to be, because if nothing else, it's
Yes.
massive entertainment value for us. And honestly, I think my best sport is taking my guide dog to the Norfolk show and seeing it. And my last guide dog, not my current one, was a collie cross, and taking him past She was just one of the most hilarious experiences you could ever want to have. It was absolutely hysterical how this, a dog who the only life, the only work he's ever known is as a guide dog.
Yeah.
And to come, full eye being contact with the sheep, and the cogs of prehistoric recognition falling into place. And you can see as he's staring at the sheep, there's the pieces of the jigsaw falling together. It's like click, 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 click. And as they're falling together, the sheep are just backing away and backing away and backing away, as it dawns on this dog what he was probably bred to do.
Yeah.
It was just, it was hysterical. Absolutely.
So we're very
hysterical.
dog friendly, and from probably most years we do get your colleagues from guide dogs who will bring a couple of dogs for a day of collecting. And I have to say, of all of the charities who come to Wroxham Barns, who we support, guide dogs is right up there in terms of visitor value and appreciation.
Oh,
really,
that's really, because our collection, especially because cash is tricky at the moment. So yes, but
they are always welcome. Not least because it's a great cause, but also because our visitors love it.
Oh, I mean, you're more than welcome to organise and name a puppy if you wish. Sponsor a puppy. I can see Roxy, the Wroxham Barns pup, coming up.
So
male or female?
Yes. No, I'd love to do that. Look, but the awareness of the staff, and that's what will come out of sharing this discussion with them, is, listen, guys, let's just remind ourselves that, and culturally, people who, in my experience, everybody wants to be independent. So you're not, you will be reluctant to ask, but of course, grateful if somebody is on your level and on your wavelength and goes, if you could bring that table, that'd be really helpful. Thank you. And some water for the dog, please.
So with the other hats that you wear, Ian, how do you, obviously we've had this conversation about Wroxham Barns, and hopefully this will encourage, more of the guide dog owners within the Norwich area to, to come out and see and just have a day out, because I have found that there is a reluctance to venture out because the physical environment has changed so much. That's why I'm talking to you, to just burst that bubble of anxiety around where we go. So another hat that you wear is sort of Norfolk wide, isn't it? So I suppose that the learning that you've drawn from Wroxham Barns is hopefully cascaded around the rest of the district.
Well, both ways. I have to tell you that I've been a passionate believer in collaboration and working with colleagues, networking. Because it's quite enjoyable, but secondly, you never stop learning. And actually, I think we're really grateful in Norfolk. I think we're very proud of our industry. It's massive. Tourism in Norfolk is worth £2.8 billion, and 60,000 plus jobs. It's huge, and therefore the businesses are proud of that. They hold their head up high, but they also value each other, and we recognise that we are in competition with each other, but it is the sum of the parts which makes the destination. And it's no good having an attraction or an accommodation provider who isn't meeting the standards. That's not a good thing. Whereas in other industries, that might be a very good thing if your competitor isn't as good as you. But in this case, we want all of our colleagues to be as good, if not better, and constantly striving. And we will all be the net beneficiaries if we reach out and share best practice. So that's and Norfolk is fortunate in having a number of organisations which enable businesses to collaborate, to share knowledge, share best practice, share concerns, and in the course of the COVID-19 crisis, it has been to make sure that government has understood both the challenges we face and the solutions that we seek if we're to remain viable and protect those all-important jobs and remain compliant and able to operate in this new way.
Well, I think you'll find, I mean, the Broughton District Council, where I'm also a councillor, had their cabinet meeting last night, and one of the things that has come through is the Norfolk-wide fighting fund to support businesses post-COVID. And I think one of the high-level priorities is tourism. So I think you'll find that you are valued right back because, everybody appreciates what there is, and actually structuring your offer in the way that you do, making it accessible. So because families have got better at just planning their days out, haven't they? It's smartphones, you can quickly find from one moment to the next where your next destination is if the kids have got bored of something that you've done. So you've got Wroxham Barns, so there'll be stuff to do in Wroxham, boat trips, the Bure Valley Railway. There's all sorts of bits and pieces that weave into it that need to have a common platform and I suppose a common ethos, don't they, to make sure that your experience isn't so vastly different, across the board without making it into Disneyland. It's sharing those values is just immensely helpful to anybody visiting. So thank you so much what you have done historically to pull everybody together, because as we spoke earlier, you probably spent your lifetime, haven't you? This has been your life's work.
It feels like it, but it's been, the time's whizzed by, and it is just really, it's always brilliant just to chat to colleagues, and people are flattered to be asked. So it's completely normal for one attraction or one hotel to ring up another colleague and say, I really like what you did there, or I was at your place the other day and I thought that was amazing. Where do you get it from? Got it from here, but there's a better one there. If we had our time again, we'd do it slightly differently. If you want to come and have a look, absolutely. Where did you get that information you need for best practice, for training, and so forth? It's, and you just never stop learning. And of course, we don't run these businesses on our own. We have teams of people and they too need training. I suppose the challenge is that, we're a small business. It's owned by myself and my wife, and our stepson's working in the business as well. And so it's easy for us. We can set our discretion to give back a bit of time, but it's harder when it's an employee. So I don't have a solution to that. Just business owners need to buy into that ethos when they are large organizations and more. And if they're sort of trying to squeeze every last ounce of direct productivity, collaborating and giving a bit back is still valuable and will reflect on your bottom line, yet not immediately.
And I think this whole the post lockdown, we're still in the COVID world. I think has given businesses an opportunity to make that step change that was perhaps necessary. That was perhaps the step that they envisaged 5 years down the line. Speaking to I spoke to James Knight last week, and the changes that they've put in place, I think they have actually brought them into the 21st century in a way that perhaps would have been delayed or not a priority, but now that they're in place, everybody's really pleased, and it just makes for a better experience. So yes, well, if you do speak to any of your colleagues, and any of them want to demystify what they do for visually impaired people, I'd be so grateful to talk to them about what their offer is, or how we can help, and just put them in touch, and that would just be really good.
Yeah, so one of the many things that has come out of this crisis, out of difficulties come opportunities, and one of them has been the use of Zoom, which is exactly what we're doing.
It's amazing, right?
Good conversation, which is really enjoyable and would be very hard. It would be nowhere near as enjoyable over the telephone, and it would be very time consuming if you had to travel to Wroxham and so forth. So Zoom means that Zoom meetings are now very common with trade organisations like Norfolk and Suffolk Tourist Attractions. So I will suggest to Peter Williamson, our chairman, that it would be great if you were able to just talk to all the members in one of our Zoom meetings.
I know, that would be
and
really good.
I'm on one of the support groups for National Farm Attractions Network. They have regular Friday night Zoom meetings where 60 or 70 farm attractions owners from around the country will meet. So, the fact of the matter is, what's valuable for me in Wroxham is valuable for every attraction in the country, and these collective opportunities to share information are very valuable. So I will also share this conversation with National Farm Attractions Network, which has 230 farm attractions in membership around the country.
Oh, fabulous. No, that would be really, really, really good, because, days out, especially where it's just nice to, be out with the dog and the kids and everybody else. It's just nice, I suppose. When you do have a guide dog, you do tend to necessarily be a bit more outdoorsy, don't you? Because being looking after a dog does involve going outside. So just having something like that is just I suppose your dog becomes your child in a way, and you do delight at the way they observe the world and how they interact, because we are a unit in a way, and I'm happy when he's happy. When he's happy, that's probably it. I don't think he's terribly concerned about my state of well-being. Not this one anyway. He's a full retriever, Ian. I make no excuses. He is beautiful, but also quite vain and very selfish. Love him to bits, but
he does the job, though, I hope.
Yeah, he just likes looking in the mirror. So I think it's is the way it works. But hey, they're all so different, and he is lovely. He is absolutely lovely. Right. Thanks. Okay, Ian, thank you for your time so much. I'll just stay on for a bit longer. I'll just say bye to the people watching us on Facebook.
Thank you very much.
Well, guys, I hope you found that as interesting and enjoyable as I did. Ian Russell has been an absolute star coming to talk to us today. He's an exceptionally busy man, and I'm so fortunate to have grabbed him for this length of time that I have. And I think it's really great to, as the Norwich Guide Dog Forum, to now get the opportunity to feed into the organisations, the Norfolk and Surrey Tourist Board, who came to see us at our forum, but to have direct input into their members meeting would just, I think, be absolutely fabulous. So if you have any issues that you want me to raise, then please just either comment below this post or email the Guide Dog Forum at norwichguidedogforum@gmail.com, or message us on Facebook, and we'll definitely feed those through. So until next week, when I believe I'm going to have the enormous pleasure of hosting Matt Gooch from Carlton Marshes, which is a brand new nature reserve that is being created by by the Suffolk Wildlife Trust. So he's coming to talk to us next week, because I think that's just another fascinating place that, you know, we simply can't afford to miss. It's going to be amazing, you know, on all sorts of ways. So yeah, it'll be great. So tune in next week and I'll see you then. But you know, for now, it's bye from me and bye from Ian. And yeah, catch you again next week. Thank you.